Maximising your electric range means lower fuel costs and fewer stops to recharge. Different journeys, traffic, and even the weather can affect driving efficiency, but driving style is one of the biggest influences. Many techniques for driving efficiently apply regardless of the vehicle. Research from the AA shows that some drivers can improve their efficiency by almost a third as a direct result of driver training. So here are some tips to help you adapt your driving style and habits to better suit the electric taxi. The tips in this guide are aimed at helping you get the best from your new TX. Even within our team of testers, in the same vehicle, on the same routes over thousands of test miles, the most efficient drivers outperformed others in the group by an average of up to 25%. So these general tips should be used as the first steps towards optimizing your driving behavior, but not every driver will apply them in exactly the same way. With responsive controls and plenty of performance, TX is a fun cab to drive, and it's so quiet that most drivers accelerate more quickly than they usually would. The gauge on the driver display is a good indicator of how efficiently you're driving. It shows the power being used in real time. The more the needle moves, the more energy you're using. So try to drive smoothly and consistently, avoiding the extremes of the gauge. And if your right foot gets too heavy, the dial will turn from blue to amber. So keep an eye on this gauge and try to stay in the blue. The biggest change in the way you drive an electric vehicle is how you slow the vehicle down. The TX has a braking system that can take the energy normally lost as you slow down and use it to recharge the battery. To get the best range, make sure you select maximum regeneration every time you start the cab. Use this to slow down, minimizing your use of the brake pedal. You'll see the power gauge start to move towards regeneration instead of propulsion. And while much of this harvested energy is used to recharge the battery, it's always better to avoid unnecessary acceleration in the first place, as it takes more energy to accelerate than it does to slow down. And if you're using the brake pedal too often, you're wasting that energy and wearing your brake pads faster than you need to. The different drive modes help you to control how you use the electrical energy in your TX. The default Smart mode will use the most efficient method for the present conditions. This normally means it uses the battery first, before activating the range extender as the battery is depleted. This is ideal for the majority of situations, but it may not suit your work routine. The stored electrical energy is best deployed in an urban environment, where speeds are lower and congestion leads to start-stop driving. That means if you're travelling on free-flowing, faster roads, it's often better to select the Save drive mode. This maintains the battery's state of charge, so that when you reach the city, you can utilise that stored energy when it's at its most effective. However you use the drive modes, make sure that you are using the energy stored in the battery. If you arrive at a charging point with some charge remaining, and you've used petrol since you last recharged, that's mileage you could have covered on less expense. So don't be afraid to select pure mode and deplete the battery. There's some other good driving tips that apply regardless of the vehicle you're in, from making sure tyres are correctly inflated, to dropping your speed on dual carriageways and motorways. A vehicle travelling at 70 miles per hour typically consumes 25% more energy than one travelling at the same distance at 50 miles per hour, but the effect multiplies the faster you travel, so even a reduction of a few miles per hour can make a big difference. Electric vehicle batteries work best at the right temperature, so on very cold days some of the energy must be used to heat the battery pack. For example, in testing, our drivers experienced a 15% reduction in range between August and February. That means these techniques are particularly important to maximise your range on cold winter days. Switch on your heated seat to maintain a comfortable temperature, instead of turning up the cabin heating, which has to warm a large volume of air and is therefore far less effective. On a hot day, open a window at slow speeds instead of turning up the air conditioning. Never do both. That freshly cooled air will disappear outside, making the system work much harder to maintain the desired temperature. And if there's no passengers on board, switch off the rear zone to reduce energy consumption. TX features a programmable timer that allows you to warm the cabin from the main supply while plugged into a charge point. That means you come back to a warm cab and you don't need to use energy from your battery to warm up once you set off. The driver's display shows a battery charge and petrol fuel level. This information is used in conjunction with the outside temperature and current energy usage to forecast the electric only and total range possible. This is provided so you can plan ahead and best deploy the battery energy, so the figures displayed are conservative, and because only pure EV mode will deplete the battery fully, the forecast range for the save and smart drive modes will be a few miles lower. A great way to track your progress is to use the onboard displays. The driver performance display on the central touchscreen shows your average efficiency and energy consumption and records a history on a graph. Try selecting the reset after every trip option so you're able to try out some of the tips in this guide and see how your average efficiency improves from day to day. The official published electric range of TX is 80 miles. This is calculated using the standardised NEDC process that all vehicle manufacturers must follow. To get consistent results, the official testing is done in a lab, which means there's often a difference between the published figures and what drivers experience for themselves. That's why we've chosen to advertise the fuel savings possible based on a more realistic, real-world range that is 80% of the official NEDC figure. The online running cost calculator is designed to give a general indication of the fuel savings possible when moving from a diesel cab to TX. To tailor the savings displayed, first enter your daily mileage and the number of days worked per week, or your weekly fuel spend. Next, select your current vehicle from the drop-down menu to display the fuel savings possible. You can view these by week, month, or year at the top of the page. The calculation for fuel spend is based on the assumption that you will achieve an electric range of 64 miles, 80% of the official figure, that you'll recharge overnight, either at home or on a residential charge point, and that you are able to use either an on-street rapid DC charger for 20 minutes or a fast AC charger for 45 minutes during your working shift. It also assumes that you are able to achieve 70% of the official fuel economy from your current diesel cab, for example 23 miles per gallon in a TX4 Euro 6 versus the official figure of 33. There's many ways you can improve your driving efficiency, but here's a recap of the top 4. Stay in the blue. The more the needle moves, the more energy you use. Anticipate the road ahead. Coasting is more efficient than braking, but when you need to slow down, use regeneration instead of the brake pedal. Use every drop. Use the drive modes to best meet your working needs, but only use your range extender as much as you have to. Heating and ventilation. You can extend your range even further by switching on your heated seat or opening a window, instead of turning on heating or air conditioning. By following this advice and adapting your driving style to work in harmony with the e-city technology in TX, you can reduce your use of the range extender, do your bit to bring down air pollution, and of course, reduce your running costs. That's a change worth making.